righty, folks. Welcome back to the Mushing Alaska podcast. We're your hosts, Brendan and Sean.
That's me.
As, as always, great to be with you. Thanks for listening to us. And Happy New Year.
Oh yeah. 2024, dude. Remember when it was 2023? Because I don't. Kidding
Yeah.
me?
24, off to a hot start over here. Got this nice little stomach bug. Moving on to a nice little cold right now, a little
Mm.
congested. Great way to bring it in, baby.
But then we discussed how Josh McNeal, this is the prelude to his episode. And I'm pretty sure I need to give it a listen all the way through again, but he said something about running a 300-mile race with 104 temperature. And then me and Brendan are like slightly inconvenienced by a cough. We're like, looks like we're gonna have to reschedule this podcast where I'm sitting on a couch talking.
Dude, it's funny. So the stomach bug was both ends for me
Okay,
for
that's
like
wait, whoa, what are you talking
yeah,
about?
we're
What
going there, dude. I mean,
okay.
so it literally I was thinking about it. I was like, all right, do you think that Josh would be both ending it on the sled, just like taking it like a man or
I mean,
what?
he wouldn't be the first musher to have the runs while running a race. I can't tell you how many mushers have told me stories
What do you
of
do? Would you just go fully naked in that
I
case or
mean,
what?
there's stories of people just mushing with their pants down and just pooping while they're moving and into the you put a trash bag inside of the cooler that you feed your you put your dog food in, put a trash bag in there, and you
Yak
just
City?
you whatever both ends. What, or
The thing
if
is,
it's just a
literally for
one wave,
me,
if it's like every 20 minutes, dude, you can't be stopping and dropping to George every 20 minutes. If it's like a one big wave, then sure, yeah. But you got to be able to poop on the move if you got the runs, and it just
we'll see. Here's the thing, like it was literally both ends at the same time.
okay. That's I'm
So
really
I'm just
we're losing a lot of listeners here. Yeah.
logistically,
Mhm.
I'm curious, like, how does the musher pull that one off? That's the
I mean,
question
how
of the
did you
day
pull it
here.
off? I don't really want you
I
to
was in
answer
the
that
shower,
question. Okay,
so
he answered the question.
yeah, there you go.
Um, yeah, I would think that you just I think we could just use our imaginations. I could fake my way through the answer to this one. I hope that no one has to experience that, and if they do, Godspeed.
Moving right along, shall
Moving
we?
right on. That's how you start it. That's how you start
Hey,
2024.
yeah, I mean, hopefully that maybe gained us some listeners. I don't
I'm
know.
thinking I just see him just piling in right now. It's crazy how many. One, there's another subscription. Oh, another right there live. Oh, hey, how you doing? All right.
Well, sir, as we're recording this, we're coming up on the Knick 200 weekend, and I know you're excited. I think you're going to be there. What's on your mind, dude?
It's like the closest race to Anchorage. It's got to go. Kind of have to. Uh, that's where I live, Anchorage. It's right across like the ocean from Anchorage, like literally probably 10 miles from like downtown Anchorage is where Kinnick is. If you were to like fly a plane, but you have to go like it's like an hour and 45-minute drive because you got to go around the water. It's kind of funny. Um, my thoughts going into it is I feel like it's like there have already been races, but to me, not everyone, maybe not everyone agrees with it, but I think like this kind of marks week one of the season. I know we keep on making like our you know sports analogies because we grew up in Georgia and sports are everything, but yeah, this feels like the first big event of the mid distance mushing scene. I mean, the reality it is. I mean, I don't think there's been even a 150 yet this season. So that 150 is like the distance barrier to being a mid distance race, and it's just a whole another level of conditioning and different skill set than running these 50-mile races and 100-mile races. And so I think it's kind of gets me really excited just for it to be here. at last. And you know, from basically this is step one to a bunch of amazing events that are going to be taking place in January and February, March and April. So it's a really amazing event with a lot of history, a lot of people that have been in the mushing scene for several decades are, behind the scenes in this race, getting the trail in. It's a it's a historic trail that they're on. Um, and we've got 39 mushers participating, and it's exciting, man. That's my initial thoughts on it.
I like it. I like it. I went ahead and pulled up for any of you listening. You can always watch this on YouTube, but I went ahead and pulled up last year's results and thought we might could talk about that to kind of start things off. It was a close one. Eddie Burke holding it down. 24 hours, 24 minutes. And first place, and then he beat Brent Sass by 11 minutes. And then we had Nick Petit, another 20 minutes behind that. Hugh Neff, another half an hour behind that. And Michelle Phillips, 7 minutes behind that. So I said all those. It's five people, top five, all within an hour of each other. That to me is super impressive. Um, I
I think
also
it's gonna
remember
go ahead.
I also remember last year talking to, or I guess this year, talking to Eddie, and if I recall, I think Brent was out of the last checkpoint in first place. And I think that Eddie had to chase him down to get him, if I recall. So either
That
way,
does sound right.
it sounds like, I mean, obviously the results indicate that it was tight, but that would have been kind of cool to be there. You weren't at last year's Kinnick, were you?
I was at the start. This year I'll be
Okay.
there for the start, middle, and finish. Uh, I don't know if I'm gonna go. I might end up at that at Deshka where the lone checkpoint is. I'm not sure, but I do anticipate this year to be even more competitive. There's just a bunch of really strong teams. Can you score down on last year's results?
Sure.
It's like I'd say, maybe Travis last year, I don't know, he might have had a young team, but like that's a guy that I think, this year he's not going to be finishing down at 14th, and let's like check out this year's field. We've got 39, we got double the amount of mushers. It's just double the amount of competitive. Some people are in it to compete and some people are in it to um do
Just to
what's
kind
in
of,
what it's like a training run,
right.
for their team. It's again like this exposure to an environment where there's 39, essentially they're all 12 to 14 dog teams mostly. So what's the math on that? Let's go 4 times 12, 24, 40. That's like almost 500 dogs. 500 dogs in the same parking lot that are all like well rested and incredibly in like peak condition for this shorter event. They're all ready to rock. Maybe some people's teams aren't as well conditioned and you're going to see those teams, or maybe they're not that experienced. Those teams might be taking extra breaks at that beyond the mandatory rest, and we'll go into those rules a little bit later. But um, the excitement in the at the start line is going to be something that you really can't train your dogs to experience that, and except for by just experiencing it. So you can't just go and emulate this energy they're gonna be overly excited, and I don't want to bring it back to talking about having the runs and about, but like when dog teams are surrounded by 480 dogs, they get so excited that they're like kind of their movements might be a little suspect, so they're dealing with like it's almost I don't know if you guys have ever been so excited that you kind of gotta go. It's kind of one of those. That happens to dogs too. They're so excited, they're gonna be screaming and barking. I'm bringing earplugs. Uh, so this is really good experience for young dogs, inexperienced dogs, and then we go to the race rules. Hold on, I'm gonna pump the brakes. Let's check out the field here. We got Hunter Keefe, who finished seventh last year. Matt Fairley was in the top 10. Amanda Otto's got an awesome team. Bailey Vitello, I could see him finishing pretty competitively. It's cool to see that I think it's of note that Bailey lives on the East Coast and he's here in Alaska. That's exciting. It's a freaking journey to get here with your 14, 15, 16 dogs. So stoked to see that he's made it to the other side of the country. Travis Beals, he's going to be competitive in this thing. Dakota Schlosser's been a main guy in every mid distance race for the last 4 years, pretty much. It'll be interesting to see what he does. He's got like probably the sexiest sled in Mushing. Like,
Ooh.
I'm gonna go there and say it. It is. It's brand spanking new. He custom made it. He's Sled Dog Systems is like his, project. His family, his dad and his brother Josh. They're making some really amazing sleds. And it's bright and beautiful and comfortable. And I'll see if I can get a picture of it on Saturday. And some names I don't recognize, and I hope to further educate myself on those dog teams and mushers. Gade Dunham has proven to be a total shark in these 200 miles distance, is kind of where she's really thrived. Anna Barrington, Christie's not in it in mushing as much this year, but I know she's helping Anna a ton behind the scenes. And now Anna's probably got a stronger team for it. Dave Turner, top 5 lock pretty much. Josh McNeal, he talked about it on this podcast. His goal is to be the best dog team on the planet. So he's gonna be going for it out there, and be interesting to see. I think like similar vibe with Josh as it was with Eddie last year, where he kind of didn't really think, Eddie's not gonna win this thing. Like he's never been a winner of a race, and then he went toe to toe with Brent Sass down to the finish line. I think Josh kind of could see a similar storyline potentially. Nick Petit, he's been kind of like quiet. Like, I haven't heard a lot from. He has a pretty fun Facebook follow. If you guys find him, he like writes his statuses like it's like a freestyle fragments of like, this is what I did on my run today, and
It
it's
was
really kind of fun
I,
to watch.
I read something the other day from him and it was like almost poetic. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, he's so Nick Petit, Brittany Watkins, of a Diderot veteran. Anna Hennessy is going to be in it this year. Oh, Julia Deloach, nice. She's uh, she's worked at Jeff King's place and at the Denali National Park, which is a super experienced dog person. It was kind of cool to see her in one of these races. Eddie Burke, new dog team, and so we'll see. This is a debut of his new dog team, new kennel. And then Isaac, he's another Iditarod rookie that is in the race, and his coworker Josiah is got a team. That's really exciting. It looks like that's Josiah's probably his first Iditarod qualifier. He got a heroic amount of Reddingtons in this race. No, I think it's just 2. Yeah, I thought there was a Ryan Reddington in this race, but I think that Wade is running Ryan Reddington's team. It's my understanding. Isaac Reddington's like 15, so he's like the 17th generation of Reddingtons running the Iditarod. And Michelle Phillips, top 5. Ed Hopkins is, I believe, they're partners. So it's fun. Like, yeah, most people don't know these pairings of the people running the same dogs, whose dogs they're running. Emily Robinson debut at a 200-mile event.
I'm excited to see that one. I want to see how she
Lara,
does.
yeah, Lara's Miss Sheevy's um one of her employees. She's uh qualifying for Iditarod if she hasn't already. Oh, there's Ryan Reddington. He's in it. And I believe Wade might be running a speed team. Turning Heads Kennel 2, one of my favorite mushers. Uh, Turning is a great guy. His middle name is Heads, last name Kennel, the second. No, that's
I
actually
see what you did there. I see what you
our
did there.
our good friend Ibby, who's her debut as a 200-mile race. That's exciting. So that's a
Shout
lot
out
of
to Ibby. Let's
cool
go, Ibby.
storylines. Yeah, let's go. And 39 teams. All right, now we go and we have this sequitur to the race rules. If you're watching on YouTube, also, we're just going to read it out loud for the listeners as well. But it's good. It's important to read the race rules as a fan, of course, as like a participant. But, that's what kind of makes a race like what style is this race? How many hours do you have to rest? Are there handlers? Is it on the road system? What's the trail looking like? When does it start? How can I follow it? So we're looking at the race rules here. Musher must be 18 years of age. Emily, come on. How'd you get around? Or if under age of 18, they must provide proof of racing experience that includes the completion of 2 junior Iditarod races or the equivalent. It's cost $500 to run this race, which is, a good deal. You got veterinarians at the checkpoints, veterinarians checking all the dogs before the race starts, making sure that they're fit to compete in this race. They're checking their heartbeats and their physical condition, the state of their, shoulders and knees and ankles and pads and, their hydration levels, their body score, how fat or skinny or in between are they. They're going to note what they are at the beginning of the race versus at the end of the race. And they're going to these vets are going to be available as a resource for mushers throughout the event. You can so they haven't announced what the purse is. The race starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. We've got, this is the interesting part, the race route. So the race route starts at Kinnick Lake, which is near the Goose Bay. There's a bar. It's at a bar essentially, I believe. And there's a lake right next to the bar, so they got a ton of space. And then it goes 50 miles to Deshka Landing. So in the 2021 Iditarod that started and ended at Deshka Landing, that's going to be the only checkpoint of this race. 50 miles, and then it's going to go back to the Kinnick Lake where it started, and then that Kinnick Lake, you're required to take a 6-hour rest for every team. And then you go and leave Kinnick Lake, go to Deshka Landing, 50 miles, and then leave Deshka Landing and go back to Kinnick Lake. So this is just 50 miles of trail. And I think I speak for the mushers and the trail crew and the Kinnick race crew when I say, like, we all wish it was a 200-mile loop or maybe a 100 miles out and 100 miles back. But the conditions, the resources of the conditions for this winter, I'm not sure. It didn't really get super cold, so maybe the rivers aren't like very like great conditions. I'm not really sure what it looks like out there. But to only have 50 miles is an interesting twist on things. It's been like that in multiple years in the past. But how this affects the race. Number one, you only have 50 miles of trail, and there's 39 dog teams that are going to be on just those 50 miles of trail. You're going to have them going in both directions. Pretty much, there's going to be several teams that only rest at Kinnick Lake. So after the first 50 miles, which will take the top teams less than 5 hours, you're going to have oncoming traffic for all those teams that are not quite at Deshka yet. So you're going to have a lot of head-on passes, and that like some teams are great at it. Some teams aren't. They don't have like super experienced leaders. Maybe the trail, I would assume the trail is going to be pretty wide and with like a ton of like very like plenty of space to be passing with smoothly. But some teams just haven't done it that much. Or some teams, maybe they'll smell the female in heat and they'll be like, oh, let me stop and say hello to these guys. And there's just a lot of opportunities for delays, I would say. And even for top teams, you know, if you run into an experienced team, maybe they kind of tangle up with your team or something, you know, like that. And as we saw, this race was decided by 11 minutes last year. So it's an interesting thing to keep in mind. I'm betting that most of these top teams are not going to, it's not going to really be a factor, but it is going to be a factor for a lot of teams. And it's, you know, you can't really, you can't, it's going to be interesting. Like from a mushing perspective, you know, the super experienced mushers, I would say this could be, you know, pretty chill race for them mentally. But like for a lot of these like starting guys, like it's kind of stressful. You're like constantly like looking around the corner, like where's the next dog team? Oh, okay, because like it takes like some skills from the driver to like pass a team. You have to like slow down just the right at the right time, and then you got to kind of like speed up at the right time, and then you got to like MacGyver your sled kind of to the side of the trail, and so you're kind of always on alert, you know, and so uh it's gonna, you know, it's gonna take its toll mentally, but it's only 200 miles and it's like a day and a half. It's just pulling an all-nighter with the boys. It's not that bad. But yeah, 50 miles.
Was last year's race this route?
I don't know, dude.
Standing by, standing
I don't
by.
know. I'm curious. I don't think so.
I honestly, like, I don't recall it. I feel like that would have stood out to me talking to anyone about it, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah, I don't remember
it
that at all.
it would be very interesting to see how that, if that comes into play, if anyone has any stories. So that is certainly interesting.
uh,
Uh,
Go ahead. Do you have another thought?
no, I was gonna say we can move on to
I'm not.
the
I'm not.
next.
I just still want a couple of things left on these rules.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is so yeah, mushers are going to stop likely only at the Kinnick Lake, the competitive ones, and the people that are using this as a training run or with their young dogs, whatever, they're going to spend some time at Deshka, probably camp out for 3 to 6 hours, depending on the team. Um, you can start with 14 dogs. I mean, kind of rowdy, 14 dogs. That's a good, 16 is now the new Iditarod maximum, which is what it was 5 or 6 years ago. Shout out to Matt Failer of 17th Dog Kennel, who had like, like Seattle Seahawks, they have like the 12th man. And
Yep.
that's like what their thing is at Failers. It's like the 17th dog is like the fans.
Right.
But then it became like a 14 dog race, the Iditarod, but they kept it at 17. And I remember I asked Matt, like, dude, I mean, it doesn't really make sense anymore, the 17, And he was like, yeah, they'll probably change it back or whatever. It's the idea. Or whatever. And I was like, okay. And then they
He's
kept it the
sticking to
same.
it.
And now, he's probably like, good thing, good thing he stuck to it. So
Yep.
the maximum amount's 14 you get to start. 10 to start is the minimum that you can start with. And then you have to finish with 5 dogs pulling in harness at the finish line. Deshka Landing is a checkpoint, but not a food drop for 200-mile race. So basically, all the dog food is going to be at the start slash finish line, and mushers are providing it. They're going to bring it in their own truck, and it's very logistically simple for the race and the mushers to do something like that. You can drop a dog at either of the checkpoints, and mushers are providing handlers, so they have to have basically someone at each checkpoint to take a dropped dog, or also to like clean up straw, clean up poop, clean up whatever mess the musher leaves, and just kind of be there so that the race doesn't have to like carry the responsibility of that. The I believe that there is one bale of straw per dog team that is provided at the Knick halfway point. Um, so, uh, that's you need straw to bed your dogs down. And let's see. You got all the same mandatory gear that you would have for the Iditarod, axe, and you got to have sleeping cold weather sleeping bag. You need a headlamp and batteries to mush. It's like doesn't need. It's kind of almost redundant to make it mandatory.
Mandatory, right?
8 booties for each dog in the sled or in use. Dog food, 2 pounds per dog. I don't think they're getting out the scale and like measuring this exactly, but it's just kind of like they want to see generally that this is what it looks like at the checkpoints. And then a lot of the rest of the stuff here is just going to be kind of, getting into the weeds here of stuff that's not that exciting. And it's going to be standard for every single sled dog race. Stuff like you can't switch mushers, you can't introduce new dogs, you can't have outside assistance, things like that.
Right on, dude.
Yeah.
So, so it's just 6 hours of mandatory rest. And the one thing I was going to ask is, so they only provide that one pay. What was the terminology? The one bale of hay.
Yeah, bale of straw. Straw. Hay is for horses.
Hay. Whoa. Excuse me. I don't need anyone getting
hay is
fired
for
up.
eating. Right. That's it's the same. I think it's the same substance. I don't know for sure, but for sure hay is described for a food, and straw would be for insulation or bedding or whatever.
So for the teams that aren't competitive or aren't trying to win it, they got to travel with that then.
Correct. And
which is another thing that kind of maybe slows them down a little bit.
Not really, dude. You're going to be starting with freaking 14, 12, 10, whatever it is, dogs, and you add an extra, 5 or 10 pounds of straw. You're going to be like, I wish I had, it's going to be rocket ships taking off from the start line, no matter what the training.
It's mass start. Is that right?
I got
it didn't say. It didn't.
I didn't see, but last year it wasn't, but it has been in the past. And I can kind of try to take a look here, but
gosh, that would be epic. 39 team at the same time.
Insane.
Come on, man. There's no way. It's got to be staggered.
Yeah.
But a man can dream. Now, if it is a mass start, you got to get a video of that without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be getting some videos for sure. And carrying all the stuff that you need to camp out that's essentially what the people that are camping at Deshka, they're going to carry all the stuff that they need for their one unsupported camp out at Deshka, so it's really just carrying stuff. This happens in any race, really. You got to be able to be equipped to camp your dogs unsupported. Bring all the food and the straw and the booties and the gear that you need to bed your dog team down for a few hours, without it being provided at the place that you're stopping. So that's not a big deal. And if it's a musher's first time doing it, it's like, you feed dogs in the dog yard. It's just a little different than that. And it's going to be kind of, you can tell the difference, who's got their routine dialed and who's kind of calculating to figure out like, wait, should I take the booties off like right away? Maybe I should get the straw down. I feel like the dogs probably won't even really sleep that much for this race. Cause it's like, just like they're going to run, run 50 miles. They'll be like, I'm not really that tired. If they're stopping after 50 and after 100, they'll probably be down for a nap, but I don't imagine they're going to be like just conked out after 100, so it's just like, let's just let them just stop running for a little bit. It's like more about just like letting them rest and stop running. And if they sleep great, that's going to make them faster probably, but it's not like, a big deal if they, it's like just one all nighter. I mean, we've all pulled an all nighter before, dogs can do it too. and then they'll get a nice recovery when they're done, and probably be barking and screaming to go by Monday morning.
Yep. And I guess as a handler, you're just kind of doing the same thing. You're going back and forth. You'll be at the start line, then you go to the Deshka, then you go back. Like that, that's
Yeah,
same thing.
pretty much. And it's, yeah, I think it's probably a 40-minute, 50-minute drive.
Gotcha.
Um, and you just got to be there really just to receive a drop dog is the biggest thing, and cleaning up after, and then just being like, honestly, just being like a
Supportive.
emotionally supportive is pretty
Yeah.
nice. And a lot of people are gonna have, you're gonna see these all-time mushers that are there with their dogs but not actually participating in the race. So like I would bet that Dallas Seavey's gonna be there, Mitch Seavey's gonna be there, maybe Jeff King will be there. I don't know. Maybe it's not like Amanda needs advice on how to mush. She's pretty accomplished on her own. But yeah, a lot of these, Ramey Reddington will be there maybe. So a lot of these mushers are gonna have like their mentor there, and like this might be their first time doing this, and they're gonna be like, okay, I've never like run 200 miles sharing a trail with 39 dogs. Like, I don't know, this dog didn't eat, and this dog kind of ran funny, and they'll say, is it like, how's its demeanor? And it's just like, it's good to bounce ideas because it's just so nuanced, all these micro decisions that these mushers are making to take the best care of their dogs. And are you doing something just because you think that, because you want to feel better about taking care of your dogs? Or are you actually doing something that is helping your dogs? And that's like an important distinguish in mushing. It's like a lot of time mushers want to take the extra step to take care of their dog team. And they're that's just because they want to feel like they're doing something.
Right.
Because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm just going to give them a snack, take their booties off and lay down some straw and like just let them get to sleep and be done in like 7 minutes. That could be what the dogs need. But you might feel like you should be making a big fancy meal for the dogs, massaging them, and doing this and that. And that might be what they need sometimes, but maybe you need to leave them the fuck alone to go to sleep. It's like, it depends on what your specific team needs. And there's not a wrong way to do it. But I'm just saying, that's going through a musher's mind. And I'm always erring on the side of taking the extra step to take care of my dogs. And I think that it actually kind of got in my way because I wanted to feel like I was going above and beyond. But in reality, they might have just preferred that I let them be and let them rest and be out of the way, and
Right.
just do the minimum interference. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see at these checkpoints. I'm going to be watching that, seeing, who does what kind of style.
I like it, dude. I like it. So I feel like we've been chatting for a little while and want to kind of, hone things in a little bit, but I'm curious, I heard you say Dave Turner is a lock top 5. Do you have any other predictions you want to put out there, or are
Dude, I
you
was
not into
thinking it'd be
that?
pretty fun to like us to just like write down our top 10. Just you do it. You're on your own time and I do it my own time.
Okay.
And maybe we like, I don't know. I'm scared to share it because I'd probably be totally wrong on my predictions, but
Well, like also
yeah.
like some of these people we've had on the podcast, like I don't want to piss them
Yeah,
off
like
or
we know most of these
anything.
people. You're like, yeah, dude, Eddie's gonna totally blow it. He's gonna be 20th place. It's like, no, I kind of want to. I'm kind of scared to share my thoughts, but yeah, I would be kind of cool. I think, it's kind of like fantasy. There is fantasy mushing. I don't think there is for this race, but we can kind of do our own little brotherly duo if you want.
Yeah, yeah. I like
I
it.
don't
We'll
know.
write something down.
I
I
don't want
like
to tell
it.
you too, but if we're gonna write something down, I don't really want to fill you in on what I'm thinking.
All right. Well, go fuck yourself too. All right. So let's move on to our episode, our interview. Josh McNeal, shout out, man. He was a great listen. I
Dude,
enjoyed our time with him.
he's so cool.
Dude, he's a freaking hard worker, man.
Dude, I just like,
Holy
yeah,
shit.
it's just cool. He's just doing him and his family. his wife, he's got a good support system, but like, dude, he's just like seems like they have a really independent thing going on. Like they're not like they don't have like I don't know. It just seems like they just are got it just totally well oiled machine here. It probably took a few years to get to that. They had to
Yep.
buy a property and get their dogs, get the but a couple seasons in of running these races and what it takes logistically and what it takes from the dogs, their training and their conditioning. And now he's gotten to this point where he's got these really experienced dogs. He himself is experienced. He's 29 with the
Dude,
maturity of a 55-year-old.
literally, I was
Dude,
about to say something about that. I'm glad you said it because it was like when I think at the end of our interview, we asked him about like, hey man, how old are you? And when he said 28 or 29, I was just like, holy hell. He
dude.
literally like I'm super impressed by his work ethic, both like professionally, in terms of his job and how he lives on the slope for what is it, 10 days on, 10 days off or
No,
something
yeah,
like
two
that.
weeks on, 2 weeks off, working,
It's
15-hour days for 2 weeks straight,
crazy.
and then
And
coming and doing a
he
mushing
is
training schedule after that.
and he's in charge of, I think he said like 150 people. He's like
Yeah,
managing
lead
or
work. Yeah.
overlooking or whatever.
Well, it's like,
It's it's impressive,
something
man.
I think that like something that I've struggled with in my life is like deciding like where I want to go and what I want to do. And like, this is like what I really find cool about Josh is it's just clear like he kind of found what he wanted to do and like just dove right in head first and did it at a really young age. He found the love of his life, married her. He's found the sled dog lifestyle, bought him, bought a property, got a job, got it funded, done all this at 29. I mean, next thing you know, he's going to tell me I have 3 PhDs and the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, I don't know what's coming up next, but he's uh, really already incredibly accomplished, and I think we're going to see a lot of success coming from his corner and his dog's corner in the years to come.
I agree. One thing that outside of his work ethic and whatnot that kind of stood out to me is just like he's trying to go out and win the Iditarod, man. Like he's he wants to be a top name, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's at the top of some of these races leading up to the Iditarod. Um, this is his, what is it, third run at it. I think he pulled out in 22. He did 21, 28. I mean, I think he's obviously gonna do better than his previous time, 9 days, 16 hours. I think he would beat that. So um
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's
Iditarod's
coming.
just so like you can have the best trained team and the most experienced musher, and it still can just totally
Blow
screw you
up.
over, and you finish in 12 days or whatever, But hopefully it goes well from out there. But we're gonna see him out here in a couple days, and I'm gonna say hi to him. This should come out while I'm out in the Connect probably, and man, yeah, we really enjoyed talking to him, and I'm sure I'll see lots of Josh this winter. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, Josh. And this was a fun intro, dude. I don't know. Sometimes my brain feels pretty smart. Most of the time it feels pretty dim though. But I don't know. This is kind of fun.
It was fun, man. And I'm not gonna lie, like beforehand, Sean and I are talking. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking gassed, dude. I can't do this. And we start talking about things, and then we start talking about what we've got on our plates coming up. It's like, all right, let's just try to make it happen. Let's just power through. And it's like a workout, dude. It's like you don't really want to do the workout, and then afterwards you're done with the workout and you're like super fucking pumped, man. Anyways, hey, thanks for listening to another episode, y'all. We're excited. We got some plans for y'all coming up for
Oh
the
yeah.
Iditarod. So just kind of be paying attention, be on the lookout, make sure you're liking, subscribing, following, and yeah, enjoy this next one with Josh. Alrighty, folks. Welcome back. Our next guest, welcome on, Josh McNeal. How's it going, brother?
Good man, just living the dream. Currently at work, so I can afford to buy my next pallet of dog food.
Yeah, you're up on the North Slope, which Brendan asked me what that was today.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
your
So
answer on what the North Slope is?
yeah, so I'm at on the North Slope of Alaska. I work at Milne Point for Hillcorp, Alaska, which, as you guys know, is a huge sponsor for Iditarod and also my employer and a sponsor as well. So for me.
Right on. Yeah, and you do the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off thing, right?
Yep, yep. Up here, I just got up here yesterday, so I hauled ass home from the Ace race and put everything away, and then jumped on a plane yesterday morning to come up here and start my 2 week hitch and be here through Christmas. So
Damn. Damn, dude. That's a crazy lifestyle. So you got 2 weeks, you fly. How many hours is the flight from South Central Alaska all the way up to, I guess you're in Fairbanks, you're in interior. So from Fairbanks or
yeah,
Esther.
but they during COVID they got rid of the Fairbanks to Dead Horse Flight, so I have to fly south to Anchorage first,
Oh
which
my
is about an
gosh.
hour, and then fly north. I can actually see my house from the plane if I'm sitting in the window seat. So it's
That's pretty funny.
yeah,
How long is the Anchorage flight?
it's about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. So it's not terrible.
Crazy. That's like in like a big old plane though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
we fly in a 737.
yeah. 737 takes an hour and 45 minutes to fly from the southern coast to the northern coast of Alaska. That's
Yep.
pretty impressive. That's
Yeah.
wild.
And you do that literally year round, or
Yeah, year round. So I'm home for 2 weeks at a time, and then I'm up here for 2 weeks at a time every month,
and
year
is
round.
that something that you were able to set up when you first became employed with Hillcorp, or like how do you have that set up? Is kind of what I'm curious.
So it's pretty much a standard setup for anybody who works in the field. So when I first started working for Hillcorp, I actually started offshore down in Cook Inlet, and I worked week on, week off. And then which is actually what I was working when I first started the kennel. And then when I moved up here to the slope, everyone up here works at 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I think it's a much better schedule.
Isn't there like a solid amount of people that work up there that live in like Texas and they go 2 weeks?
About half the people live out of state. You know, Washington, Idaho, Texas, Oregon, Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, you name it. So
I mean, that sounds kind of nice. Like, you could live in Texas, work in Alaska for 2 straight weeks. And I'm sure like, yeah, I mean, my understanding is, there's some good paying jobs of not from, I mean, obviously like the people at the top of the company are going to be paid, but even like working like the cafeteria or whatever, or like lower jobs are still like pretty lucrative, right?
Yeah, and things are really busy up here right now, so we're hiring tons of people. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely good money to be made up here, good benefits, and of course 2 weeks off, which is really nice too.
Which is affording your lifestyle of running dogs. And I think one of the most, I don't know, I wonder what the percentage is. It'd be kind of a curious statistic for us to try to figure out as accurately as we can of sled dog kennels that don't do tourism, or have some kind of, or send their dogs down to the glacier or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool that you get to like, because it does, when you go and get, the dogs are really dynamic. They're really like robust. You can change from race schedule to a tourism schedule, and depending on how crazy the tourism is, what they're asking of the dogs on the glacier versus on the ground or whatever. But being able to just only think about racing when it comes to your dogs, it can only be slightly advantageous at the worst.
Yeah. No, it's I think it's obviously taken me some time to try and figure out how to train for races and working this schedule. I think I've about got it figured out. It definitely helps to have a super supportive wife and some really good handlers too. So
Yeah, I was
those
gonna say you
those
definitely
two
need some good
things
help
are
to pull
key.
that off.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, on that note, why don't you tell us a little bit about your setup for your kennel?
Yeah, so the way our kennel is set up now is so we have 45 Alaskan Huskies. We're located in Esther, Alaska. So we actually bought Paige Drobny and Cody Strath's old place in Esther. So we started the kennel down in Kasilof, and I just kind of got tired of dealing with the crappy winters down there, the constant warm spells, trails falling apart. And I started running dogs in Fairbanks, and we were actually going up there and training, and we stopped by just to look at that place because I knew it was for sale, and we just immediately fell in love with it. So we bought that place about 3.5 years ago and moved the whole kennel up, and we just are absolutely love it there. And so right now, this year, pretty much every winter we have two handlers during the winter. We have a 28 dog race pool right now that we're training up that ranges in age from 2 to 8, with the majority of the dogs being 3, 4, and 5. And yeah, we're training for a really, really busy race schedule this year. So this is the busiest race schedule that I've ever signed up for, and had my team and handlers and stuff in. So we're really looking forward to racing a lot this year, and the dogs are looking fantastic.
Love to hear it, dude. Congrats on the podium finish that were there on the Denali Highway.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, no, the dogs were smoking, and like I told Emily and Dave, I said if I lose to you guys, then I'm okay with that. I mean, they have two of the fastest, most athletic teams in the state, so yeah, it was pretty cool and pretty special to be able to run that fast a time on a trail that really wasn't a super fast trail. So there was definitely some sections that were pretty soft. So,
And how what do you think the dogs were you training for that like speed a lot, or was that like you kind of like, all right, let's let it open up
no, so I mean, we have been training. So I've kind of taken a whole new approach to training this year. So the dogs did go down to the glacier for the first time ever this summer. So they came back and they were just super strong. Yeah, I mean,
dude, I've seen like Dallas's dogs after the glacier, dude, straight up like bicep vein.
Oh yeah,
Like
I
the
mean,
super
just
jacked kangaroos,
their butts were just like all popping, and I was like, okay, I gotta lean these guys out and speed them up because they've been hauling tourists all summer. So we were training faster in the fall than we ever had, and part of that, I wanted to lean the dogs out, but also, I knew that we were going to be running the Ace race, we were going to be running the Knick, we're going to be running the Cusco. So we're going to be running some really fast races. And I came home my last 2 weeks off. We were finally able to get on sleds, and I mean, it took everything that I had to slow the dogs down, but they just look so naturally. It's not like I'm having to push them at that speed. They're just running naturally at that speed. And I think a lot of it is the dogs that I have now are all dogs that I've raised, and they're starting to mature finally. So, but no, I mean, I'll be honest, I really wasn't pushing them super hard down the highway. We took off and we were flying, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to let them roll and we'll see how it goes. So
that's why it's like 11 to 12 miles an hour.
Yeah, so we were averaging until we got to the Susitna River Bridge, which is at about mile 50. We were averaging 12 miles an hour, and then
it goes uphill from there.
Yeah, then there's some really big hills, kind of that last 12 miles, and the trail got super soft. So We slowed down, but our overall moving speed was about 11.7. And then, we pulled into the lodge and the dogs weren't even tired. I mean, they popped the hook on me and I was just like, man, you guys don't even look like you just ran a race.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, have they been out there? I'm sure you've trained on the Denali Highway a bunch, right?
Oh yeah. And we've ran the ACE race the last 2 years. So, they knew
So they
where
knew the drill. They knew the checkpoint. They knew that's where they
Yeah.
rinsed, and they still are. That's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually that race is. I always remember there's a bunch of dogs that aren't tired, all resting in close proximity. There's usually,
Yeah.
someone humping somebody or something going on, and that dog
Yeah.
every time.
That's why I always bring a drop cable, and any dogs that are in heat, they go inside the crate, so that way I can actually sleep.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you kind of have to have a bulletproof setup for that because 600 miles into the Iditarod, these dogs are
Yeah.
happy to go and take a sleep, and not 63 miles into the.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And some teams camp better than other teams for sure.
Yeah. So I got a question related to, your 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Are the 2 weeks that you're on with your job, are you like the whole time kind of like thinking about like, all right, the training with the dogs? Are you like checking back in with their handlers? Or is it kind of like you're gone for 2 weeks, you kind of separate the mushing from the work, the professional life, and then when you come back, you kind of get like the full rundown and whatnot?
No, so I'm definitely involved, I would say, with my handlers, even if it's just a quick text, they're really good about it. Basically, what I try and do when I leave is I'll line up like, okay, here's what the next 2 weeks are going to look like. Here's kind of the run schedule. Here's what I need you guys to have done for when I get back. And the way that we've started training is, when I'm home, we train really, really hard. And so when I leave for work, we actually give the dogs a pretty good break. I mean, usually sometimes 3 days to a week. And I think that's really important for, muscle recovery, mental recovery, managing their weight, all that. And so then what we do in the week before I get home is the handlers start building the dogs back up. So we'll start, we'll do a short run, then a longer run, then a little longer run. So then that way, when I get back from the slope, we just hit the ground running and we're back to full bore training again. So, this year, I think I feel like I have probably one of the best dog teams that I've had. And I think that's for a lot of reasons, but I also think it's because I haven't been pounding on the miles and just really been focusing on really like consistent, strong runs rather than just pounding on the miles. And I think it's made a big difference.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for like the cumulative miles on a dog's feet for their lifetime,
Yep.
They get to 5 years old and they've run 2 Iditarods and probably ran 10 or 20,000 miles,
Yeah.
They don't need a 4,500 mile training.
Exactly.
Winter.
Exactly.
And so that's cool. So you got basically like, your team in theory is in their prime. And I mean, when you just look at the age group, 3, 4, 5, most of them probably going to have some 2-year-olds that are going to impress you at some point this winter. And, when I read your website, it said, I didn't know this really until I watched the ACE race and like, you've been like kind of in the front half of some races and, but your intention is to be, number one dog team, right? I mean, that's kind of like what you're trying to trend towards.
Yeah, that's my ultimate goal. It's taken me longer than I thought it would to get there, but like I told a lot of people is trying to start a dog team from essentially scratch. Because I bought a lot of dogs but there's a huge difference between buying a dog and raising a dog. The relationship that you have with those dogs that you raise, is so much better. And, people aren't going to sell you their best dogs. So you have to, in my opinion, you have to breed to try and get to the next level. So I tell people all the time, it's raising a sled dog team is not like a race car. You can't just take it in the garage and buy lots of fancy new parts, put it on there, and it goes faster. You have to, it takes a lot of years to develop those dogs and those relationships. And it also takes a lot of patience too, because if you try and push a young team too hard, you could ruin them for the rest of their career. So I think it's taken a lot of patience. And I mean, obviously I've learned a ton in the way, and there's been some times that I've been like really close and just, something slipped through the cracks or whatever. But I've been right there, and I'm hoping that, this season it happens, it starts happening. So.
Well,
Nice.
good start. And the Connect 200 is, like basically 2 runs. And those, there's going to be some teams that are averaging right around that 11 plus miles an hour.
Yeah, last year in the Connect, I took 6th. I was like right there to crack in the top 5. Man. So, and there was 30, 40 teams in that race, and obviously it's going to be a super competitive race this year too. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
This is a question that every musher has a unique answer to. I think shotgun start. What's your play? What do you like? You got all the teams starting at once. What are you thinking going into that?
Oh, yeah. I remember so last year it wasn't a shotgun start, but my second race that I ever ran, the Kobuck 440, is a big mass start. And I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let some of the front runners go first. Man, you just get so excited that as soon as that hat drops, you're pulling the hook and you're just going.
I'm gonna be conservative. We'll take it easy. We're gonna wait first dog leash. All right, fuck that. I'm going.
Yeah, exactly. I remember we were like a couple miles outside Kotzebue, and I mean we're just flying. And I looked down at my GPS. I'm like, I really need to slow down.
So what's the rest of your race schedule for the year? Is it between you got Kinnick, Cusco,
and then so. I have my handler Nate. He's running the young dogs this weekend in the Solstice 50, and then my handler Ashley and I were both running the Connect 200. So I'll have the A team, she'll have the B team, and then I'll go out to the Cusco with the best 12 dogs, and then I hurry home from the Cusco, take the dogs that didn't go on Cusco, and take them on Quest 200, and then Iditarod. And then Ashley, she'll be doing her last Iditarod qualifier. She's going to do the Kobuck 440. So we got a busy schedule.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. So I was curious about some of the origin of your dogs. Where did you get some of the folks that you building your team up with?
Yeah. So initially, kind of how I started building my team is when I was going to my senior year of college in Fairbanks, I was actually a handler for Ken Anderson. He ran his 17th and final Iditarod the year that I worked for him. And so the next year he leased his team out. And then in the spring of 2018 is when I kind of bought what was left of his team. He had basically like 12 dogs left. So I bought out those dogs, and then living in Kasilof, Mitch Seavey lives in Sterling. So it is Mitch and I struck up a pretty good friendship. I feel like Mitch has been a big mentor for me, as far as advice and buying dogs. So that first year I bought 3 dogs from him, and then did a breeding with one of the dogs that I bought from Ken named Jenna. She's out of Solomon. She's an extremely athletic dog. And I bred her to Chris, which was kind of Mitch's top dog at the time, right behind Pilot. And so did that breeding. And then that following spring, when I came home from the Cobuck, I took one of the females that I bought from Mitch and bred to bison from the Reddingtons. So had that litter, and then bought a couple more dogs from Mitch, bred those males to Jenna, and then one of the pups out of the first litter from Jenna. Actually took down to Mitch's, and we split a litter out of Pilot. So I have 4 of those dogs, and he has 2. So that's I have quite a bit of CV and Reddington in my kennel. And then this summer, I took the best male out of the first litter that I had, and the best female from the kind of the Reddington CV, and they bred, and they had 10 puppies this summer, and they're all look really nice. So,
dude, you got like.
That's impressive,
there's
right
certainly
there,
not
man.
a lack of genetics.
No,
on your end. Obviously there's plenty of teams that have other genetics than that and do pretty well, but God, that's quite the resume for your dog team's background.
Yeah.
Dude, so when I
try to go after the best.
Yeah. Well, you combine that with they're in their prime. You're getting better. They're getting better. It's like seems like a perfect storm for a good race season. And even if you have a couple of races that don't go your way, you're running 5 of them or whatever. It's like you're gonna have some good races this year and
move on to the next one.
Yeah, and the Cusco. I want to talk about it, Diderata, but we have time. We're still early on in this. So you've run the Cusco once or twice?
Once last year, yeah.
And remind me of your finishing position in that.
It took 16th.
16. That's like it's a strong, like anything that's, even finishing that race last place, you're still doing it in like a friggin' 2 days or whatever.
Yeah, I ended up taking extra rest during the race. But I think that race has probably given me more confidence in my dog's ability than any other race that I've ever ran, and my ability as a musher. To just see what the dogs can do on so little rest. And then, last year we left the last checkpoint and it was like 50 degrees, and then it started raining. And, the last 20 miles we're running in 4 to 6 inches of water. There's no trail markers on the trail because they've all fallen over. We're literally swimming to Bethel. And so, just that race taught me a lot about my dogs and myself. And it's racing in the villages is like my favorite thing. The Cusco and the Cobuck. Honestly, if those were the only 2 races that I could ever do again, it would be totally fine, because they're incredible races.
Yeah, some amazing groups of people. Everybody's so happy to have you show up to their little slice of paradise, and it makes you feel special being able to go and see what a different kind of lifestyle might be like. And
for sure.
That's like when you say about like the confidence, like having been on the trail once or twice myself, I think like one of the things that like it's hard for me to get past, that you only get past with just having done a 10-hour rest kind of race like the Cusco, or going through some crazy overflow, or going through something where you're like, man, like I don't know. It's like almost 95% of the time. Honestly, I'd say 100% of what my mushing, I'm the first person to think, between me and my dogs, I'm the first one to think, I don't know, should I stop and take a rest? Like in the
we're all
thing. Like it's never the dogs. The dogs are whatever I think is like this is their limit. I think I'm like coming up on it. It's like not even 40% of their limit.
Oh yeah, it's not. We're the limiting factor for sure, especially mentally. And I think it just takes time and experience to get that confidence of where their level is at, and how hard you can go, and how long you can run. It just comes with experience and gaining that confidence.
Yeah, like a lot of times and that's not to be like, there's like it's interesting. There's the recreational mushers that they just kind of are happy to do. And that's kind of where I fit in, even though I had the badass dogs, I still kind of ran pretty chill schedule. I don't know if it was because of the me feeling like, oh, I don't know, if I should go.
I mean, I do remember
because I wanted to sleep an extra hour or two every time.
I was going to say, I do remember a couple conversations with you that may have went like that.
Yeah, dude. So like my first time I really had a conversation with you was in Rhone, I believe 2021. And
Yep.
yeah, you were like, I had a rough run, I think, through the gorge.
Yep.
Like vibes were low. And then I was like, all right, like, I'm there for you. Like, what do you need? Just like, I think you just needed someone to talk to and hear you out and you get that out of your system. And then, I was thinking like, all right, well, maybe I can, I'll probably beat Josh in this one. I don't think he's really, and then, and then I see like, not even, it probably was less than 200 miles later, probably right before I did, or maybe an offer or something. Yeah. And you just like, we're just like taking way shorter rests because your team was crushing it. And so it's like, I remember passing you head on and I was like, dude, what the hell? Like, I still got like 30, 40 miles to go to Iditarod and you already went there, took your rest and came back, and I was like really impressed with like how, and that kind of goes back to the previous subject we were talking about, which is that like, you think that run was really hard on your dogs, and maybe it was, but like, they're so robust, they're so tough, and you can't believe in that robustness and toughness until you see it.
Yep.
You get to Roan, you maybe take a nice long rest or whatever, reassess the situation. Like, let's just get to the next checkpoint. We got a long run to Nikolai. We'll take a break, and next thing you know, your team's clipping along super fast, and you got that confidence right back. And
yeah, it's amazing. Once you can get in a rhythm. I mean, like I said, the dogs aren't the weak spot. We are. So it's just, yeah. Once you get them flipping along, man, you just keep rolling.
Yeah. No, that was that I remember that run through the gorge, like being like, oh shit, I just pulled that off. Like every corner I went through, I was like, oh, that was really close to a complete and total disaster. And then
I remember going through the gorge that year, and there was little makeshift bridges, huge ice shelves, and just trying to keep your sled and your dogs on it. And then we got to the bottom of the gorge, and I'm just like, we made it through the gorge. And then we get on the river, and it's just blue glare ice for 5 miles. And I'm just like, well, I guess this is what we got to go. And then, that was the year that Allie crashed, and you could hear the helicopter, but we didn't know what was going on. And it was like 40 degrees.
Yeah. I remember seeing Allie's like headlamp on the ice and a total yard sale of whatever was in her sled. And I just flipped over and I was like, huh, that looks like someone had a bad day. And then I was like, well, I'll just keep flipping. I didn't think like maybe this is the section of trail I should worry about. And then I immediately just fell over.
Yeah, I fell over in that same spot too. So don't worry.
Yeah. And then I think at some point, I'm not sure if it was this race or the previous one, but there was just like one of those little like nubs of like wood sticking out of the ice, and it hit my brake bar. We weren't going like crazy fast, but we were going like 8 or 9 miles an hour, and just come stop at complete halt, like just gut check to the handlebar to the stomach.
Oh.
But so last year you ran 21 Iditarod. Have you run the last 3, or did you take a year?
So I ran in 21 and 22, and I took last year. Last year I just ran Knik and Cusco, had a pretty short racing season.
Yeah, it's kind of nice and help you save or not spend as much, really expensive event.
That, and just coming out of COVID, the wife and I wanted to do some traveling and go see some family and do some things that we hadn't done for a while. And honestly, I got a lot of old sports injuries that I needed to get fixed. So we're working on that too, but doing a lot better on that front.
Right on.
What kind of sports were you into?
So I played football, wrestling, baseball, and track. So,
Oh man, you're
yeah.
playing something year round, I guess. Sounds like.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, my senior year I was an all-state lineman. And then,
O-line?
yep. Yep. And
What
then,
was what was your position? You're
I
talking to
played,
you're talking to a left tackle over here.
I played center and left guard. So,
Nice.
yeah.
So you're probably much faster than I am.
Not as
You're
fast as I,
doing you're doing some pulling as a
oh,
guard,
yeah.
I assume. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Not my ass.
Yeah. But no, I was pretty tore up by the time I got to my senior year. So I didn't even wrestle my senior year. Had to have shoulder surgery the following year, and just lots of little issues to fix. So it was nice to take a break and really focus on getting a lot of that stuff fixed.
What was what wrestling class were you?
Uh, I wrestled 189, and then when they changed the weight classes, I was 195 my junior year.
Got you. Yeah, I did wrestling for 1 year. My freshman year, my football coach was like, "Yeah, just you should do something to, keep it going or whatever." Went literally straight from football season into wrestling, and like that first week of wrestling practice, I'd never wrestled before. Absolutely, just like absolutely destroyed me.
Oh yeah,
And
you think you're in shape until you go
no,
into wrestling practice, and it turns out you're not in shape.
yeah. So, but yeah, no, the wrestling didn't work out for me. If I wanted, I was 215 or I was heavyweight. But like going up, like if you can wrestle at 215, you might as well do that because like that gap from 215 to 275 for heavyweight is just like
It's a big gap.
ridiculous. Yeah. So, anyways, not to take us off topic for too long, but I was just kind of curious about what that looked like for you growing up.
Yeah, no, I was heavily involved in sports growing up.
And then you said after COVID, you guys had that itch to travel. What did that look like for you guys?
So we ended up going to Minnesota to see my wife's family. That's where she's from. And we went to Ireland and Mexico, and went back to Washington to see my family for a week. So just spent the whole springtime traveling pretty much.
Nice. That's badass, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you been to Minnesota before? That's like a state that I recently went to for work, and I was like, I didn't know anything about it, and I was amazed at how I didn't know there were so many lakes there and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
Did
no, I've been there quite a bit now,
okay.
and I had been there before my wife and I even met. And I went back there to meet her family. So we have quite a few friends that live back that way, and so Minnesota's cool. Not as cool as Alaska, but
Yeah, my boss is from Minnesota, so I guess I've learned a little bit about it. And he tells me some things that sound Alaska-esque, but I'm like, I think it's just like a fraction of what I know of Alaska to be. So,
yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
but
Yeah, I have definitely heard some great things about Minnesota, and they got crazy cold temperatures, lots of wind,
Yep.
and like I mean, people say something that I mean, certainly compared to Anchorage and Talkeetna and south of Talkeetna, maybe, that it might be colder winter, but it's just a shorter winter.
Yep,
And
it's a shorter winter. They've got some really great dog races down there too.
yeah, I would. Have you seen them or?
So we actually second year with the kennel, we went down to actually the lower 48 and raced. Didn't do so well because the style of racing down there is completely different, and that was like right before COVID hit. And I'm pretty sure I had COVID because I was sicker than a dog for like half the races. I ran the UP 200 with like a 104-degree fever.
Yeah, that is.
geez.
Yeah, I
Well,
have like a
that's
tickle in my throat right now, and I'm like, I don't know, I maybe should reschedule the podcast.
Yeah.
Dude, how old are you?
Just turned 29 September.
Damn, you're like married with a kennel, just like 5 years into your own kennel, and 29, dude. I thought you were like in your 50s or something, dude. So all right.
whoa,
I'm just kidding.
jeez.
I'm just
So
kidding.
sometimes I feel like I am.
Yeah, with all the surgeries and aches and pains, yeah, maybe especially during those races, you feel like an old man.
Yep,
Everybody
exactly.
does.
Uh,
So 2022, I did a ride. You finished in.
I did not finish the 2022.
Galena.
Oh shit! Sorry. Okay, yeah.
No,
Talk about how that went for you.
man, it was honestly a dream run up until it wasn't.
Right.
My whole goal was pretty much to just take it easy until I got to the Yukon. And then if the dogs were ready, we were going to start racing. And of course, started the race, and every female in my team started coming into heat, just one after another. So I mean, we had a good run through the gorge. The gorge wasn't bad. The river wasn't bad. The burn was pretty terrible. Um, got to Tane Creek. There was no snow. It was just glare ice. Ended up camping on one of the lakes. Got blown down the Post River. That was kind of interesting, going across the Post River and outside of Roan, and got hit by a wind gust, and me and the whole team got blown down the river into the alders. And
The Post River is the one near Roan.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
The Glare Ice, the infamous Glare Ice River.
yeah, yeah. And so, camped for a couple hours, had a good run to Nikolai, had a good run to McGrath, ended up 24 in McGrath. And it ended up being like 40 degrees and snowing like a foot. And it might as well have been raining. The dogs didn't rest all that great. And then kind of leaving Ophir, I started having leader issues. And up until this point, and up until the point that I scratched, I didn't have a single injury the whole race. When I scratched, I had 10 dogs in harness. I had returned 3 of them because they were in heat, and I had one that was getting a little thin. So, made it to Ruby, made it to the Yukon. Team just came screaming in there, ate everything. And so I'm like, okay, well, my goal is we got there early. Is like, we're going to stay for a couple hours, then we're going to run to Galena and take our 8 through the heat of the day. So left Ruby early in the morning, just as it was kind of getting daylight, and got 15, 20 miles out of Ruby, and just started having major leader issues, just swapping dogs around, couldn't figure it out. They had one thing on their mind, and it was not running to Galena. So a couple of my males got in a pretty good tussle.
It was the ladies in heat, you're saying?
Yeah, every female on my team was in heat.
Okay.
So ended up, a couple of males got in a pretty good tussle. So I turned around and we ran back to Ruby. So ran back to Ruby, ended up, I think I took almost an extra 24 there, just trying to get things reset, returned a couple dogs that were like in full blown heat. Ended up following Bridget Watkins out of the checkpoint, and made it to Galena, took a good rest there, and then actually left the checkpoint in Galena, and made it about a mile or two out of town, and I just didn't really like what I see, and I turned around and scratched, and I'm pretty sure I scratched for the happiest team ever. They came back to the checkpoint. They had no idea what was happening. I mean, they were super happy. They were all playing. Of course, how dogs get when half the team's in heat. So, we ended up flying to. They flew us to Unalakleet and then back to Anchorage. And I got back to Fairbanks, and about that time, that was when Bridget and Gerhardt got stuck in that storm, and almost died. And so it was kind of a realization moment for me that as much as it sucked to scratch, I was really glad that I listened to my gut, because I would have been right there with them, you know. So it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. You know, it sucks to scratch, but when it's in the best interest of the dogs, it's kind of a no-brainer. So
Yeah. So you'd say, yeah, you scratch with the happiest team quote. Yeah. I would, that's kind of how mine went too in the 2020. You know, my dogs were like, I mean, it was just such an easy job because they were Jeff King's A team, and we trained him hard and trained him well, and they were all in their prime, and they were like, you know, I was getting wet and I was having issues, and they were just like totally fine and still playing with each other. And I remember like when I was in Shaktoolik, you know, people were looking at my team like, dude, what are you doing here? Like, you should be moving along. Like the whole team's like wagging their tail and like, you know, wrestling and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Maybe it did go a little too slow on that one. It's good. Yeah. You know, it's good to err on the side of caution, and, you know, it's such a tough decision. And, you know, sometimes I go back on the shoulda, coulda, woulda, but, you know, it is what it is. And, whatever.
Yeah. You know, I couldn't get any dogs that really wanted to lead. And I didn't want to get into a situation where I wouldn't have a dog that wanted to lead. And if I would have been in that storm, I mean, with no leader, then it would have been really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's like, I've never had I don't know. I've had some leader problems for sure, but like not unsolvable, you know, like that sounds like such a stressful situation. It's like tricky too, because you're thinking like, as you're switching leaders, I mean, like, yeah, in a perfect world, the dogs never have the option. Like, if you're a good lead dog, they will have never crossed their mind like that it's an option to go and check out what's going on behind them.
Yeah, and exactly.
Then they go and they check on what's going on behind them, because the female's in heat, and that's just nature doing its thing. And you're like, well, I'm going to switch him out. But then you like when you switch a dog out that like stops leading, now the dog's thinking, well, oh, that's on the menu, I can actually stop leading. Yeah. And so like they learn that, and then they can, you know, and that's something that's hard to unlearn. And so, and another good reason to like a benefit of scratching in that situation is that you didn't do that for too long. So the dogs weren't just going 400 miles with you switching out leaders whenever they thought that I'm not into leading right this moment, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it was kind of confirmed when the dogs made it to Anchorage before I did. My wife picked them up, and, you know, they're just being total knuckleheads. And she was like, I don't know how you were dealing with this on the trail. And I'm like, well, I'm at least glad that somebody else got to see, you know, what I was dealing with. Because, yeah, it was pretty rough. But,
dude, it's so ridiculous.
It's just one of those things you learn and just kind of move on from and try to come back better next time. So
with females in heat, were your females in heat, were they just as, I mean, obviously you tried some of them in lead, and it's not like everyone ever, you know, I think everybody kind of thinks like, the females are in heat and the boys are getting horny. But like, dude, the girls are like backing their butt right up to the boys. Like,
yeah, it's not just the boys.
Yeah, yeah, they're just as excited.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so life goes on.
Yep, life does go on. So I was excited, dude. You're back in it, and you got a strong looking team, and you're gonna have like, I guess kind of you get to connect. And you're pretty much like all your training from Connect race to Iditarod is going to be like maintenance miles, kind of keep them moving.
Yeah.
50 here, you know, 50 there, maybe 100 or something. But like you've kind of probably you probably have some decent sized trip between now and Connect, I would think. And then and they're moving while you're obviously up in the slope.
Yep.
And then it's kind of a nice feeling, I feel like, because like sometimes I dread like the training trips a little bit because you're just like, no, I'm the only one that's making us do this. Like the dogs
Yeah.
love doing it, but you're like, God, like, do I really have to do this? You know,
Well,
like,
and I mean,
you
and
know,
that's why I wanted to just do all the racing too, because it's like I do the racing, we get the miles in. By the time we get to Iditarod, the dogs are just dialed, you know.
and it's so much more fun having like a race, I mean, and for some people, it doesn't have to be a race. I always like to emphasize that. Like we talk race this, race that. Like it's just an expedition that's sponsored. You know, like
Yeah.
you go and pay your money, get your marked trail, get your veterinarians, get your shit all out on all the different checkpoints. It's like the easiest way that you could go 300 miles. You know,
Yep.
so and it's like it's not hard to. I don't know. So when you're training as a Brennan for a triathlon or whoever for whatever, you're like, all right, if I didn't run this 1-2 mile run, would I really not finish this triathlon as strongly? Right. So like champions don't have that mentality. So you probably don't. I definitely am like looking like, all right, dude, do we really need to go on this 120-mile run? We're running the
Well, Sean, do you remember when you were doing the training run on the Denali Highway, and my wife and I were out at Alpine Creek Lodge for our
Oh
honeymoon?
yeah. I
And
forgot about that, dude.
And you came in, and we're like, "Do you want an Oreo?
Oh yeah.
Do you want a shot?" Because you were tired.
Yeah, that's hilarious. You guys were like in the in the lodge, just like vibe and chilling. Like I don't know. Did you have your dogs there?
Yeah, we did.
You
We
did,
had
but
we had our dogs on our honeymoon up to the Alpine Creek Lodge, but we'd already ran that day, so we were just chilling.
yeah, I'm doing like a Dallas CV friggin' 4 hour rest, you know, whatever series, and I'm like, you know, I just I was down. So we both had these moments where we've been down, and the other one is just there to just you just got to bitch for a second, you know, and
Yep.
it doesn't have to mean anything, you know. I just want to say that to anyone that I've bitched at. I've been, you know, just it's just nice to just complain once in a while. All right, just take it with a grain of salt. I don't mean it really, but it's
Yeah.
just sometimes I got to, you know. Eh?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to go back and just revisit the topic of the dogs and heat. It's been a topic on the last few episodes that we've recorded, and I guess I'm wondering at this point, like, does that go into the decision making for, maybe you don't want to select a dog for the race?
Oh, it totally does. I mean, we're tracking our dog's heat cycle so much better, and I can guarantee you when I go to pick my 16 for Iditarod that I'm going to be looking at it. After that race, we spayed a ton of females, so that they just can't come in to eat. But it definitely goes in my decision. And, ideally, if, I'd love to have enough dogs where I could just run a all female team or an all male team and not have to worry about it. But, it's definitely something that's going to factor in my decision on which dogs I bring. But the thing that sucks is some of my best leaders are females that are intact. So you have to weigh those options.
Yeah, it's like the whole like spaying neutering thing, is you don't want to ever spay or neuter a dog, if you have that luxury, because if you're like, I would like to figure who am I going to breed? I was like,
Yep.
well, I don't know if this dog's going to be the dog that I want to breed until they're maybe 3 or 4 years old. That's
Yep.
in some cases. And now you've got your best lead dogs, the ones you're probably going to breed, and you're not going to spay them. So now it's like this total catch-22. But what an asset to have is a spayed female. Like you can pretty much put that dog next to any dog, almost any situation, and that's just such a nice like set and like you just set the dog in the wherever in the team, and you don't have to think like, hey, it's this dog, whatever. And it seems like all the females always tend to go into heat for some reason during that Iditarod, right before, whatever.
It never fails.
Never fails.
Now, I'm curious, like, if before that Iditarod, were you like maybe not as closely monitoring it, and that was kind of like a learning lesson, or it just shitty timing?
A little bit of both. I mean, we were monitoring it, but definitely not as close as we were now. But I had never had that many females in heat at one time ever. In and I still have yet to this day to have that many. I mean, normally it's like if we have two females at a time in heat, like that's a lot. And I think I had 6 or 7.
Jesus, that's like an ancient Roman orgy right there, dude. That is crazy.
What did you just say? Ancient Roman orgy. Oh my
I don't know.
gosh.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't in Rome, but I assume there was a couple of those.
Yeah, so it was a rough time, but no, we're definitely tracking a lot more. Got a lot more spayed females, and our male dogs behave a lot better now. So just training.
Yeah. Well, now that's exactly, and the female heat cycle for a dog is not like, it's not very linear either. I feel like you could have a female come into heat, and you're like, all right, cool, like I'm good for a few months, and then they come like right back into heat again.
Yeah,
I'm not like, I don't know anything, but that was my experience, and it was kind of like, you can't just go into anytime you bring an intact or not spayed female into the race, like it's on the table, it's in the cards, it could happen.
Yep,
and
exactly.
Sometimes females go into heat, and the boys don't even really care.
Yep, and then some certain females do, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
So one thing that we try to ask all of our guests, at least recently, is if you have any good stories that highlight any of your dogs, whether it's, like we talk about the dogs that you didn't have a much of an expectation, and they blew it out of the, park, or maybe just one that just like you had all the expectation and they absolutely delivered. But just curious if you have any good, spotlights on any of your dogs.
Yeah, so I've actually got these 2 dogs, Zeus and Tiny. So Zeus is from the first litter that I bred, and I remember I was doing this long series at home, and Zeus was just struggling, and so I came back home and went to leave for another run, and I left Zeus at his house. And I was like, Zeus, you're done, buddy. I think I'm gonna sell you. So then, of course, I tell my wife, like, yeah, I think I'm gonna sell Zeus. And she's like, no, he's gonna prove you wrong. Well, sure enough, the next season he completely turned it around. He made my Iditarod team, made it up all the way until I scratched. He finished the Knick last year with me, finished the Cusco with me. I mean, he's not a leader, but he's, just an incredible team dog, and you need those, right? And then the most interesting one is Tiny. So Tiny, he's not a tiny male, but his tail got bit by his mom the day he was born, so he has a tiny tail. So his nickname when he was a puppy, from Mike Santos's son, which is where the puppies were at for the summer, was Tiny Tail. So we shortened his name to Tiny, and he was the smallest male in the litter, and I was like, he's kind of a butthead, and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. Well, this season, Tiny has just completely blown my expectations. He's one of the fastest leaders in the kennel now, and he's just really turned it on. He's been running my A team. He'll probably lead part of the Knick and the Cusco, and definitely, Iditarod. Just absolutely blew my expectations of him, and he was another one that I was going to sell. So I don't know if I just have bad judgment of dogs or which ones I need to get rid of, or I should probably just listen to my wife more.
Yes, I know. Yeah, the having a solid team dog, like same, like similar feeling with like having that spayed female. You can just, especially if they're a great sled dog, but like having that solid team dog, man, it's just so nice to put them in the team, and it's just like I have to spend like zero mental energy, pretty like 0.01% of my brain on this dog. Like I know this dog is totally fine. And that's like, the mental, like a lot of times you could drop a dog just because you think something's wrong and there might not even be something wrong, but you're just tired of thinking that something could be wrong. And then you drop the dog. Like that's a good enough reason, right? So like to be able to have a dog that's a team dog and you're like, this dog's like pretty much bulletproof, that's a good feeling. I can think of a dog at Jeff's named Gilder, and he's just like never led. He actually retired, and then he went and worked with like a shorter race kennel that was like doing recreational stuff, and they put him in lead with like not with the team wasn't as Jeff King's team was, and so they put Gilder in lead, and he just like they won the race, and it was like his first.
That's awesome.
Pretty funny. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And then Tiny, just like the fast leader. Oh my gosh, that's such a nice thing to have. You got your weather, like inclement weather leaders where there's, big wind or no trail. You got your speed leaders. You got your, I'm going to give my all-star leaders a break. So I'm going to plug these guys in because they could probably just run this easier leg or whatever leaders, So,
exactly.
Speeding, so.
Yeah. So pretty excited about him. So he's 4 this year. So he's just coming into his prime.
And you usually with your retired dogs, you rehome them to like an active home, or do you have a couple of retirees you kept with you?
So we have 2 full-time retirees that live in the house with us. So Jenna, she was really one of my big leaders. She was a leader when I worked for Ken, and then, had a couple litters of puppies out of her. And then we also have her brother Junior. And then kind of what we do is, we kind of cycle our dogs through the house, but then once they're retired, we bring them in the house full time. So like right now we've got 2 additional dogs in the house that are getting ready to go to retirement homes. And then, we retire them out to pet/active homes. We do quite a bit of work with the August Foundation. So I partnered with them. My last 2 Iditarods for people that I work with through Hill Corp's Giving Fund to kind of sponsor me, but also August Fund gets a pretty good portion of the money too. So It's been a really good relationship.
I think like I always, I feel like the majority of dog owners that get a puppy have never trained a puppy, and it's a really challenging thing. And I always try to convince people, mostly without success, that like the best friggin' dog you could get is a retired sled dog.
Yep.
Because, they're super thankful to be like somebody's, one dog of maybe a hospital that has 2 dogs or something. Or now they're sleeping on a dog bed inside. Like they're just happy to sleep on the carpet inside.
Yeah.
It's like, whereas you get other dogs that they're like, hey, what are you doing on my side of the bed kind of dogs, right? So they're just so thankful for the little things.
Yeah, and they're so easy. They're so well trained. They're so well mannered. They'll just sleep all day. But yet, if you want to take them on a hike or go skijoring or whatever, they have plenty of energy for that. But I mean, our dogs, we don't even see them most of the day because they're upstairs sleeping on our bed or in their couch or on the couch or whatever. So.
Yeah, so you guys that are looking for your first dog, I do recommend, and just because you live in the lower 48 doesn't mean that's not on the table for you. Like there's most mushers send their dogs to the lower 48 for their forever home, and they retire at 7 or 8. They live until they're 15 on average, right? So you're not just sending them to a home for the last 2 years of their life. Right. They'll be 7, 8, 9 years old, but they still got 5, 6 years on average left.
Yep. No, we've shipped a lot of dogs to the lower 48 and they're all doing amazing. So
the August Fund, if you're looking for a retired sled dog, that's
get a hold of the August Fund, get a hold of Julie. She's amazing. They foster a ton of retired sled dogs. So get a hold of them for sure.
Heck yeah. So I think I saw a post from you recently that you kind of, firstly, your website, again, man, most of the people we have on their websites are just like, I'm so impressed. Like I've seen a lot of bad ones in the past, but it seems like everybody across the board is kind of getting their act together, you know.
Well, it's not me. One of my best friends that I grew up with since preschool. He has his own marketing company, and he completely built the website and does all the graphic design for our logo and all of our merchandise and all that. So that's Jesse Lion Eye Creative. He's freaking amazing. He's been a huge help and been there since the beginning. So
right on. Yeah, so you've got this busy race schedule. You do have a good job in the North Slope, but it's not enough money, I'm thinking. So people have the opportunity to sponsor some of you or sponsor your dogs or something, right?
Yeah, yep. We got a sponsorship program. You can sponsor an individual dog or do a kennel sponsorship. Every little bit counts. I mean, at the end, it costs about 20 grand to run Iditarod, and just the last couple of years, the price since I started the kennel 5 years ago, the price of kibble has pretty much doubled. So even with a smaller kennel, it's still $30,000 to $50,000 a year to maintain the kennel. So yeah, every little bit helps.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Brennan?
Yeah, I had this thought the other day. And I know that each race has different requirements of things that you have to keep in your sled. I was curious though, like if there is maybe like a non-traditional item that you're like, fuck, I have to have this. Like but maybe it's something that like a normal person wouldn't think of,
And just like you're like stoked that you have this setup or this thing.
Probably the thing that I have that I love the most in my sled that is not a required item is a tarp. A tarp has saved me more times than I can count. And so whether you can use it as a jacket if it's raining, you can cover up your sled, you can sleep on it, you can dump all your gear when you get to a checkpoint. It is like the most versatile thing. I know it sounds really dumb, but
that's brilliant.
Like I asked Aaron Burmeister one time about it, and one of his Iditarods, he's like didn't bring a tarp, and he got to Nikolai, and he gave one of the locals some money to go buy him a tarp. Like I love having a tarp on the sled. It's with the warmer winters that we've been having, and it seems like every race it rains. It's really nice to have.
You just like wrap yourself up like
or just throw it over your sled. I mean, I always have rain gear now. So like last year on the Cusco, I had a tarp wrapped around my sled to try and keep all the water off of it and
right.
freezing. But yeah, a tarp is for you young mushers watching. Get a tarp, throw it in your sled.
Yeah, I can picture you got the tarp over, you got the hood on, and you just look like Emperor Palpatine, and you're just like, something about the dark, something darkness. I don't know what he says, but
yeah.
Yeah. So what about go-to snacks on the trail?
So
like on the run, you're moving, you're a little hungry,
So I'm really bad about eating on the trail. But my favorite things are probably just like cold bacon. Love that. And then Smucker's Uncrustables, because they're frozen. Then you can pop them in your parka and they're thawed out in like half an hour. And you got a nice peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then the last Iditarod, I started every run with like 2 ibuprofen, 2 caffeine pills, and a couple peanut M&Ms, and that was the money combination.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious! That is too funny.
Perfect cocktail, if you will.
Yeah. Little sugar, little caffeine, little painkiller.
So. What's funny is like we've heard of the snacks that mushers are eating there, and like I swear, like we never hear anyone like, oh, I'm eating healthy, like trail mix, and no, everyone's just like anything goes. I guess like my thought is like if you're eating kind of crappy food, doesn't that like make you more tired and like
Like, I don't
That's what the
know.
caffeine pills are for, dude. The sugar, the caffeine, it's counteracting. What are you talking
Counteracts
about?
it.
I mean, those are the snacks, right? Like I do eat trail mix, and like my meals are pretty healthy, but I think honestly, it's just trying to get as many calories and you can because you're just working so hard. You're not sleeping. Like I remember when I ran the Kobuk. I mean, it was my second race. Like I did not eat enough on that race or pack enough food, but I wasn't really hungry. Like I got back to Kotzebue and I remember like I had lost like 17 pounds in 4 days or whatever. I mean, it was crazy. So, and then the same thing happens on Iditarod. So,
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
was about to ask you how much weight you've lost on an Iditarod before.
I think my rookie year I lost like 15 pounds, right in there. So,
Jeez.
um, yeah. So it's by the end your pants are falling off.
So Sean, Josh, we're about an hour in. I don't know if Sean, did you have anything else? I mean, like as always, I mean, we could easily extend this and just keep chatting about it because it's so easy to talk about. But Sean, do you have anything you wanted to wrap up or any other questions that we've missed?
Dude, I just gotta say, thank you so much for that Oreo, dude. That was clutch. Yeah, that remember that Oreo. There's not many Oreos that I do remember, but I remember that one. And
yeah, because then you had to roll right from that into your rookie meeting on Zoom.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had to mush back.
Oh,
Yeah, I was already bitter 63 miles before the rookie meeting. I was fine. I got over it. I wasn't that bitter, but
yeah.
You know.
You were sitting in the truck in the Cantwell parking lot. I was sitting at home in my pajamas.
I think we had exchanged some messages too while I was in the parking lot of just like you were like, yeah, I'm in my PJs, and I was like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah. I can say I probably am the only. I can actually probably say this now. I'm probably the only rookie that has ever shot in a lynx during their Iditarod rookie meeting, because there was one in the driveway during the rookie meeting, and I actually like stepped away from the meeting to take care of this lynx that had been hanging out that I was worried it was going to get some of our puppies, and got this lynx, and then came back to the meeting. So.
What? That is fucking metal,
wow.
dude. Like
I love it.
Lynx has been looking at my little wee puppies a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And that's serious. That is a serious potential for that to happen.
But yeah, that's a pretty Alaska story right there. I think
Yeah.
Rookie getting a lynx in your driveway.
Wow. You get back, you're like, anyways, yeah, the rookie meeting, and everybody, no one has any idea. That's so awesome.
Yeah. Nobody has any idea what just happened.
You just like wipe you get like blood off your face.
Yeah, I have a picture of me in my pajamas holding my lynx that I got.
Is lynx something that you can eat? Do you eat that, or like what do you do with that?
I've heard of people eating it, but you like I got it tanned, and you can use it to fur for whatever, make hats, gloves. So it's really warm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Josh, for coming on. Maybe you can hang out tight for just a second when we stop recording. But that was super fun chatting with you, and I'm stoked for your race season, dude. We're gonna be rooting you on from our pajamas potentially.
Perfect. You're the smart one.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, it's like such a like battle of like, I don't know. I should maybe get back into it. And I'm like, the second I like kind of take a step towards getting it, and I'm like, well, like right now I just slept into like 9. It's like it's not that all that bad not doing much and thing anymore. It's crazy. Yeah. And you seem like you're really good. Even I saw you in the summer, dude, doing all that fishing. I guess you got a boat or something.
Yeah, we bought a boat a year ago. So,
and dude, that was like a grind, like going, because you're driving from Fairbanks down to the coast, and
yeah,
you're just like always on a crazy schedule, I bet.
No, it's not a lot of sleep. My wife asks me all the time. She doesn't know how I do it.
Crazy.